Welcome to Cognitive Connections, where we're dedicated to helping you preserve and strengthen brain health at every stage of life. I'm Nandita Srikumar, the president and founder of Cognitive Connections. And as a reminder, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide medical advice or diagnosis. Today, we have Patti LaFleur, who's the Lorenzo's House program lead. Patty is the former care partner to her mom, Linda, who had younger onset dementia, and a former elementary educator for over 10 years. Patty designs and leads the youth programming with intentionality, knowledge, and love. Her capacity to connect with family members through lived experiences and profound generosity of spirit sets the tone for how Lorenzo House shows up for families. Patty has a master's degree in instructional leadership and is a certified dementia practitioner and has spent countless hours volunteering with people living in neurocognitive disorders and as a community leader for the Alzheimer's Association. Miss Patti LaFleur, thank you so much for being on the Cognitive Connections podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such a gift to be with you, and I am so inspired by the work that you are doing in really thinking about brain health across every stage. So honored to be here and excited for this opportunity.
Yay. So let's get started with that. Could you just share a little bit more about Lorenzo's House and kind of its mission in supporting individuals with younger onset dementia and their families as well?
Yeah, so Lorenzo's House is a nonprofit social impact organization that is unapologetically focused on supporting the sons, daughters, and families of a person affected with younger onset dementia. We believe in empowering the individuals that are affected and their family members by curing isolation, building community, and driving dementia justice. At Lorenzo's House, we do two things. We heal in community and we advocate for dementia justice through our three pillar programs, Match, Clubs, and Summit, which help to support family members in having community and connections with people who understand this condition, like the condition that they're walking through.
That's amazing. I think especially as, unfortunately, as younger onset dementia itself, continues to rise with the number of cases rising, I think having foundations like Lorenzo's House is really important and key to really supporting not only the diagnosed individual, but also really, the family and helping them understand the overall impacts of this disease. So,
100%.
yeah. So, what are some of the unique challenges of younger onset dementia that are usually different from later onset dementia?
Yeah, one of the things that our beautiful founder, Diana Shula Kos, who actually founded Lorenzo's House because her beautiful husband, Larry, but they called him Lorenzo, was diagnosed with younger onset Alzheimer's. One of the things that she always says is that younger onset dementia is a diagnosis of the family. When you are getting a younger onset diagnosis in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, you often have young children still in the home. For Diana, our founder, when Brain Change showed up in her home, her boys were 9 and 13. And so a unique challenge is that young people, and here at Lorenzo's House, we support family or young people as young as 4. Young people are navigating these years with a parent with a complex condition. So one of the unique challenges is that it impacts the family in a different way. Another unique challenge is that often with younger onset dementia, people are misdiagnosed. They will be diagnosed with mental health concerns or anxiety or depression or menopause and not have an accurate diagnosis. So they're often misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. So often when I am connecting with families, they will say that their doctor will have told them that they were too young, or that because they were only 40, it couldn't be dementia, when in actuality, that's what it ends up being. For me personally, with my mom, I walked this journey with my mom who had younger onset dementia. And she also had type 1 diabetes. And so they said that her type 1 diabetes was causing her cognitive changes, when in actuality, she was unable to manage her type 1 diabetes because she was experiencing cognitive changes. So the path to diagnosis often looks different. And then another unique challenge is that you're younger, right? You're in your 30s and 40s and 50s. Those are some of your bigger earning years. So when a person in the household ends up with a brain condition that makes them have to walk away from their job, you often go from a dual income to a single income, or if it was a single income, the other person has to go back to work. And then qualifying for Social Security, disability, or other benefits can be challenging given the age and given the diagnosis. So there's the unique challenges of the family impact, the unique challenges of the path to diagnosis, and then all of the unique challenges that come with the financial and the working and just the time of your life, these milestones being disrupted.
Thank you for that super clear explanation. I think that probably would have cleared up any kind of misconceptions that our audience might have had of, younger onset dementia itself. So thank you so much for that. So are there any common misconceptions about younger onset dementia that you'd like to clear up additionally as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that big piece around being too young for dementia is really a common misconception, right? When people think about dementia, they always think of it as an older person's disease. You imagine someone that's in their 80s, or someone that's in their late 70s or in their 90s and is in a wheelchair or or these pieces, when really so often families affected by younger onset dementia are still young and healthy, right? They still look relatively like they are healthy. And so I think there is a lot of misconceptions about the understanding of this disease, not just being a disease of older people. I think another thing that leans into that is all of the stigma that surrounds dementia. And so often there is this idea that because they look healthy, that there isn't anything going on. And so then that leads into these moments of stigma, not only for the person diagnosed, but for their family members.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the first common misconception that you were talking about how, most people think it's an older person's disease. And coming from my background with cognitive connections, I think I've also seen that with, learning about brain health itself. People tend to kind of neglect the idea of even wanting to learn about brain health because most people, don't really understand that, things like these tend to accumulate in our brain 20 to 30 years in advance of it, actually even starting. So I think, understanding that younger onset dementia, is a possibility now with the current world that we live in, and truly taking action starting at an even younger age, I think becomes even more important.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
So, how does younger onset dementia impact not just the individual, but also like the children and the family members? And kind of in sum, what are some of the biggest emotional and cognitive challenges that these children who are also affected in turn, like face the most?
For sure. I mean, as I said, right, it becomes this diagnosis of the family. And so we often think about, we have some of our young people, they would like to be out riding their bike all day, or they'd like to be doing these activities, but they end up having to come home to this complex condition that is happening in their home. And so not only do they have to navigate what it means to be a young person who is balancing school and their friends and their all their clubs and activities, but they're also navigating this complex condition. And they're doing so with very little to no resources, an understanding of what that looks like, and with very few people around that understand, right? So it can disrupt some of those milestones. For me, I was in my early 20s, and one of the biggest impacts was that my mom wasn't able to be that person for me to rely on. She wasn't the person that helped me plan my wedding. She wasn't the person that was able to attend my college graduation. And so these milestones and goals and ideas of what it would look like to have this adult relationship with my mom got totally changed. And instead, I was left to navigate some really hard moments and also to navigate the stigma. I think the thing is that the stigma is so thick for younger families, right? Because as I said, they look healthy, that people don't understand that there is these cognitive changes that are occurring. And so you are 16 and you're at a basketball game with your dad, and your dad does something that the world views is not normal, and you have to be able to navigate that moment, right? And in that moment, you want to not only identify that what you are experiencing is stigma, but then how do you respond? How do you access your tools in your toolkit that allow you to empower yourself in the moment, empower the person with brain change, and empower others to really understand kind of what is happening? So I think one of the biggest pieces really is that stigma. And how do you navigate that as a 4-year-old who wishes that they were just playing dolls all day, right? Or how do you navigate that as a 19-year-old who has to take a break from college because you need to come home and care for your mom? So it's really this idea of how do you navigate some of these moments of stigma and then these milestones being disrupted.
Yeah, definitely I do agree with the whole stigma, issue right now in society. And I think slowly, with organizations like Lorenzo's House itself, I think we can definitely slowly break away from that stigma, hopefully, and, make this idea that, it's a possibility and make it more accepted within society. I think that would definitely help, the different families that are currently experiencing or that have individuals within their family experiencing younger onset dementia.
For sure. Well, and people like you, right, who are leaning in and listening and asking the questions and bringing awareness, right? There's a super big power in sharing stories, because when you share your story, you empower others. So by you creating this space for people like me and for so many others to share our stories, it will help to dismantle the stigma. So just so much gratitude for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. So I also want to know a little bit more about Lorenzo's house and how they support family and especially children in navigating the challenges of having a parent with younger onset dementia.
Yeah, that's a great question. So here at Lorenzo's house, as I said, we do two things. We heal in community and we advocate for dementia justice, but we do that in 3 ways, or in our 3-pillar programs. So our first pillar program is a match. So we do a one-to-one care-to-care match model. So we will connect peers of a similar profile. So we'll connect 2 young adult daughters in Chicago, and they will have a community and a connection. We will connect a mom care partner and another mom care partner, and they're able to get themselves together and get their spouses together and then get their kids together, right? So they're building these community and connection through these one-to-one matches. The other thing that we do is our clubs, which really leans into how we support children, teens, and young adults. So we have a bright brunch for female care partners, a light lounge for male care partners, and really what makes us unique is our focus on the sons and daughters. So we have our children's group, and we have a young children's group for ages 4 to 7. We use picture books to talk about brain change. We have an 8 to 12-year-old group where we focus on play and building community and connections. We have a 13 to 17-year-old group where we really talk about how do we start to have this conversation with our friends or our teachers or our coaches. And then we have a young adults group, a young adult-like club, where they are really coming with questions and wonderings, and they're building their collective toolkit of resources and strategies. We also have a We have Shine On Space, which is a grief space for children, teens, and young adults. And then the really exciting thing that we have coming up in June, on June 20th and 21st, is our virtual youth summit.
That's amazing. It's so great that you guys have, different, three different sections, kind of allowing people to kind of pick and choose on what they feel is most comfortable with them. And the fact that you guys also have, like specific sections for different age groups, I think is also amazing. Allowing, younger kids to learn about younger onset dementia, with like little books and things like that, but also going all the way up to young adults. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's such a gift to be able to think about what makes the most sense. And, sometimes people want to join a big group, right? They're comfortable, right? I feel like both of us are probably comfortable in big groups, but sometimes you're not as comfortable and you just want someone that you can have a series of text exchanges with. And so it's really meeting people where they are.
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of touching on that last note that you were talking about, could you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about the virtual youth summit and essentially what kind of sessions you guys offer at this youth summit?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. So we have a free global youth summit that takes place every June. This year, as I said, it's on June 20th and 21st, and it brings young people from across the globe together in community. So our first year in 21, we had 23 young people, and last year we had over 200. And so we bring together young people who either their person is still living with younger onset dementia or their person has passed, and we build out sessions that support the different age groups. So we have a young children's group, a teens group, and a young adults group. We also, all of our sessions are led by a youth lead and what we have called a dementiator, which is an expert in the field, and they are paired together to build out sessions. So, for example, one of our sessions is going to be led by one of our 13-year-olds and a dementiator. Her name is Adria Thompson, and they are going to be building out a session on how do you continue having connections and conversations and this ability to connect with your person with younger onset dementia as the disease progresses. We will also be bringing in Teepa Snow and a neurologist and a genetic counselor, and we have grief and loss sessions. We also will be having opportunities to share our stories and build our stories. And opportunities to do a collective art experience and have conversations and just connect as young people affected by this journey. And then brain health. Brain health is at the heart, right? Just like you're saying, brain health is so important across all stages of your life, and really, especially for families that are affected by younger onset dementia, they're thinking about that brain health piece often earlier. And so we'll even be having a brain health session for our children and our teens.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, the fact that
Yeah,
it's also virtual, I mean,
yeah,
everyone can really just tune in from, wherever they are. And it's basically like a mini, brain health awareness week almost, and
yeah,
really focused on, the younger onset dementia aspect. And kind of like you were talking about earlier, how, sharing stories just empowers other people even more. I think the fact that, these teenagers, kids, young adults are able to share their life experiences to empower others, I think that's just so amazing.
totally. I agree.
So, what role does emotional well-being play in both caregiving and managing dementia? And how can families really prioritize this aspect?
For sure. Well, emotional well-being is so important on this journey, right? Caregiving and managing dementia in your household can cause a lot of stress and anxiety and confusion. So, really prioritizing your mental health and your emotional well-being as much as possible is important. Finding those small moments to take a walk or finding those small moments to journal or finding those small moments to just walk away and have a break and do a deep breath can really help to carry you through. Something that we often think about is you maybe don't have 10 minutes in a row to do something, but could you do something 1 minute at a time? And then that builds into 10 minutes throughout your day. So how can you find those little moments, those little tools, those little strategies that can help to carry you through and to really prioritize those moments? Here at Lorenzo's house, we include mindfulness across all of our programs. And so we often use a program called Insight Timer, and it has this beautiful opportunity to kind of build those tools and strategies in the sessions together, and then to carry that into our daily practice.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all the statements that you made. And also, another thing that we've also seen with caregivers is that, again, they sometimes tend to definitely get overwhelmed with their caregiving aspect. And sometimes they tend to, slowly neglect their own brain health over time. And with emotional well-being, again, being one of the five pillars of brain health, I think really prioritizing emotional well-being throughout their caregiving process can be really beneficial to not only managing their stress aspect, but also overall maintaining their brain health as well at the same time.
Sure, for sure.
So, also kind of tying into the other pillars of brain health, how important are sleep, nutrition, and exercise in maintaining brain health, especially as those are all, risk factors that if we don't like properly take care of, they tend to be risk factors for dementia and Alzheimer's disease.
I mean, they are of the utmost importance, right? I mean, you can speak to that probably even better than I can, but without getting accurate sleep, you are not giving your brain the ability to pause and reset and clear and be able to function to its best abilities. Nutrition, right? Especially as you are a caregiver, it can be really easy, like you were just saying, to kind of pick up some bad habits, grab something quick or grab something that's not healthy. But really, the more you can prioritize having a balanced meal and making sure that you are having all the different food groups and nourishing your body, you are able to not only show up as a better son or daughter or caregiver, but you are also able to maintain your brain health. And we all know the importance of exercise. I mean, I can even feel it in my soul when I don't exercise and I'm more tired or I am not as able to function. So the importance of all three and your emotional well-being and socialization and just finding what are those little practices. How can you make sure you're just getting a little bit more sleep or eating a little bit better or getting in even 5 minutes here and there to really maintain your brain health, especially for those at risk of dementia, or even, I mean, we're kind of all at risk for dementia, right? I mean, the statistics say that, 1 in 4 people will develop a form of dementia. And so really just, we all need to be taking care of our brains.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just continuing to prioritize really all the aspects of brain health continue to be important, whether you're a caregiver or even if you're not a caregiver, just taking care of your brain health in general should always, be at the toppest of anybody's like to-do list.
Totally.
So, are there any new treatments, research, or even promising developments in the field of younger onset dementia that, kind of give hope for better management or even prevention?
Well, I'm going to just start by naming that I am not a medical professional in any way. But what I would say in answer to that question is that what I think is the most promising development is that we're talking about it, right? We're beginning to have conversations about younger onset dementia on a more wide scale, right? My mom got diagnosed 15 years ago. And when she got diagnosed, I don't even remember that being a thing. They just said that she had dementia of unspecified kind, right? And so that was her diagnosis. They didn't say because she was under the age of 65 that it was younger onset. That wasn't even something that they were communicating to us as a family. And so I think For me, what's promising at this moment is that we're talking about it. And when we start to talk about it, there starts to be research. And when there starts to be research, there starts to be treatments and other development. So I think the big thing is just continuing to elevate our stories, and that there are starting to be some small amounts of research that is happening on a larger scale.
I definitely agree. Slowly breaking away the stigma is definitely one of the first steps that all of us can take. And, if you're tuning in right now to this podcast itself, really starting that, conversation with family members can be very important, especially if you do have a family member or even close friend or neighbor that has younger onset dementia. Really trying to break that stigma can make the difference of that first step. So, what advice would you give to someone who has a loved one recently diagnosed with younger onset dementia?
So my biggest advice is, first of all, we see you. Just, I want to say, as someone who walked this with my mama and a member of the Lorenzo's house team, we see you. We are here for you. And I think the most important thing that you can do when this diagnosis enters your family is find your community. So who is your support person or people? Who are the people you're going to lean on when that gets challenging, when you're walking this grief and you need a moment and you need someone to cry to and you need someone who understands? Who are you going to reach out to pick up your grocery order so that it can support you in being able to take care of your person, right? Find that tribe. And sometimes it's your family, sometimes it's other people in your life that are related to you. And sometimes it's your friends. Sometimes it's just people around you that can lean in and can be there. For me, it was my friends more than my family, right? My dad had gotten sick himself. And so my mom moved in with my husband and I became this full-time care partner. And so I was looking for support within my friends. And then I started to find support even online. So who are those people or person that are going to help you and be that sounding board and support along the way?
Thank you for that amazing advice. I definitely agree with kind of just finding your support pillars in life and kind of just sticking to them and making sure that you have a safe space can be very beneficial in navigating a definitely very tough journey in your life. So, kind of as a closing thought, if there is one key message that you'd like people to take away about brain health and dementia awareness and about younger onset dementia, on like an overall nutshell, what would it be?
Well, I first of all just want to say that younger onset dementia is something that's happening, right? I just want to name that. If you take anything else away from this, I just want to remind you that dementia can show up in your 30s, 40s, 50s. It can even show up younger than that. There are childhood dementias. And so just if anything that you walk away from this conversation is that there is younger onset dementia, it can be a dementia of any form. And so just having that general understanding that that's something that can happen, I would love people to walk away with. The other piece is the power of brain health, the power of brain health as an individual that is not affected by younger onset dementia or dementia of any form, but the power of how can we have just one small little habit that we can implement today that helps our brain health, right? So maybe I don't have the time to do an hour workout today, but can I find 5 minutes? Can I find 2 minutes to do a breathing exercise? Can I find 3 minutes to go sit with my dog and just like calm my body, right? Where are those small moments that can continue to build up to kind of a bigger moment? So just can feel really like a lot of pressure to take care of your brain health. Like you're like, I have to do this. I have to eat good every day and I have to work out every day. And there's a lot of things on everybody's plate. But what is that one small thing that you can do to give your brain a hug today? So that would be my overall message. And then the power of how that helps you today, and then it will continue to help you in the future.
I think that's definitely a great takeaway from today's podcast. And, it's really about just making one little change every day and kind of just being consistent with whatever that one little change is. And I think that one little change can really just accumulate over time and make a large difference by the time you do start to age and by the time you do hit the, age of 60, 70, or 80. I think making the small little differences today can really have a large impact in the future. So
For sure.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast. It was just amazing to learn about Lorenzo's house, the profound impact that it has created, and how you yourself have truly helped to enhance that mission along the way.
Thank you so much. I am just so inspired by the work that you are doing to really raise awareness and have conversations and continue to educate. So, the honor and privilege was all mine to be able to spend some time with you. And I just can't wait to share your resource with as many people as I can.
Thank you so much. I'll definitely also in the description, the Lorenzo's house link will also be linked. So if any of our audience members do want to check it out as well, they'll definitely have a resource. And to everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to listen to the Cognitive Connections podcast today. And remember to keep your brain healthy and see you next time.